I lived on a on a rural street in a part of Los Angeles called Cheviot Hills, which we used to say was halfway between Fox Studio and Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studio. I remember in particular the summers, because when the summer came, it was Los Angeles, and this was a place where they had golf courses and vacant lots and lots of places to play. So we would take off most of our clothes and run around barefoot for 3 months. We only came home when we got hungry at night, knowing that our parents would probably come out looking for us if we didn't come home. We had a gang of kids that we ran around with and played kick the can, and we stole golf balls, and we did silly stuff. I was pretty good as a track person, and I played, I was a high jumper when I was down in Los Angeles, and then when I came to Sausalito, I went to a high school up in a place called Mill Valley at Tamalpais, and I joined the tennis team, and that's when I first started playing tennis. We used to have an outdoor tennis court in Sausalito, and I spent a lot of my time down there. I used to go down there when the sun came up, and I used to get mad when the sun went down because I couldn't play tennis anymore. So I was kind of addicted to it. I was a nut for planetariums. And one of the greatest memories that I have with my grandmother is whenever my birthday came along, she would take my sister and me up to Griffith Park Planetarium, which was new, and I would revel in that. At Christmas time, we used to go out to Pasadena, where my aunt lived, my father's older sister. We would go out Christmas Eve, and we'd all have a huge dinner, and then they would sit around singing German songs and having a wonderful time, and they'd put us to bed. And then they'd leave and bring us home, probably get home at 2 and 3 in the morning, and set the Christmas tree up, because that's what we believe. Santa brought the Christmas tree as well as the presents and stuff. 5 o'clock in the morning, looking at all those presents, wanting to thank Santa, and how they ever managed to do that. They did that for probably 4 or 5 years in a row. My father bounced me on his knee when I was about 14 years old and told me that he wouldn't be able to afford, or he wouldn't afford for me to go to college. And that's when I got the idea that I was going to go to the Naval Academy. So I learned to sail a lot, and I got in races, and I really, really enjoyed it. Sailing was a great experience for me. To go to the Naval Academy in those days, you had to get an appointment. And you could get an appointment from the president, or you could join the Navy and come up from enlisted man, or you could go to a congressman or a senator who could choose to appoint you offhand, or he would let you take a civil service exam. And I took the exam in late July in '44. I found out in October I'd passed. Come next July, it was time to get on the train and head back for Annapolis. During the fall, they brought you in and measured you for your first naval uniform, and it was virtually blue uniform. There was no adornment on it. I think you had an anchor up on the lapel, but that was about the only thing. And then you had your cap, which was this, not like an officer's cap. It was shorter and the visor was smaller. Exciting times, we went on cruise every summer. The first summer we went on a cruise on a battleship up and down the East Coast, got down as far as the east side of the Panama Canal, then came back up again. But then the crew was always glad to see us, particularly enlisted men, because they knew we were future officers, but we also knew we had to do what they said. So they thought this was pretty glorious. And my third cruise was on the battleship Missouri. We went over to the Mediterranean and called on many of the ports in Algiers. Cigarettes were supposed to be a really good way to talk to the people concerned. I stuffed cigarettes in my socks and I put them in my t-shirt and that kind of stuff, thinking I would barter something with somebody that we met. There were 2 or 3 of us that did this, and we met a guy who volunteered to take us around and show us shows the country. And about halfway back to the ship, he stopped and he turned around and he said, "Now I want your cigarettes." And he made like he was going to pull a gun. So we decided that was the end of our life of crime right there.
Bill and I have known each other all our lives. People say, "Oh, you were childhood sweethearts." Well, not really. I mean, I never went to school with Bill because he graduated. When I moved to Marin County, and he had graduated from that same high school before me. And our mothers went to camp together when they were girls. Because couple summers, my mother couldn't get home to Mexico to be with her parents because of revolutions. And so I've known the Potters forever. And then, of course, he went off to the Naval Academy, and I was, I wrote to him 4 times while he was there, the whole 4 years.
She and I wrote letters, but she would keep me up to date on what the gang was doing. We formed a yacht club. All of these guys that I'd sailed with formed a yacht club, the Sausalito Yacht Club. And she kept me up to date on what they were doing after I left. And I would write occasionally from the academy, but it wasn't any real torrid love affair. And so Mother said, matter of fact, she would call up and talk to Joan's mother, and then she'd say, "Here's Bill. Bill wants to talk to Joan." So that's how we would get talking. So that's where our real romance started, I think. I proposed in the car one night up on a hill looking out over the beauties of San Francisco and so forth and so on. I proposed, but it was kind of a halting, stuttering proposal, and I came home and I was living with a friend of my mother's at the time, and I told her, gosh, I proposed. And when Joan spoke to her, the first thing she said was, "Well, congratulations, Joan." And Joan said, "Bill proposed?" Anyway, yes, it worked.
He found out that his ship was going to go to sea the end of April, so we got married on April Fool's Day. And people say, "Why did you do that?" I said, "Because I got him home from sea that day." And we had a nice, lovely wedding in a nice, neat old church in San Francisco. And we were together 19 days, and he left. I came back to San Francisco, and he was in the Philippines when the Korean War broke out, and I was worried about him when he was in Korea. They were shot at a couple times, but nothing really serious. Thank God he wasn't on the ground or flying or doing all those other things. But you still can't help but be kind of concerned.
I remember Jones telling me that her mother called my mother and said she felt sorry for me because she didn't think it would work. So here we are, 60 years later, and it didn't work. It didn't pan out. I met a wonderful woman and had great kids, and I've been very lucky.
I'm very proud of our children. I really am. My family means a lot to me. I think they're all great. They are.